Patty, Richard, and George, it's great to see you and have the opportunity to talk about what I consider to be an extraordinarily important book, Business Sustainability Reporting and Analysis. And it's great to have the opportunity to speak to the two authors and the publisher. So without further ado, may I simply ask the question, what made you write this book? Why did you decide you should put in the huge amount of effort that it takes to write a textbook?
Sure. Well, thanks again, Peter, for this opportunity to talk about the book. Yeah. I mean, of course, this is a relatively new area and there's a dearth of textbooks in this area. So that's one reason. But another very important reason is we really wanted to write a book that emphasized that this is more than simply adding a few extra footnotes to the traditional financial reports. We really believe this is a new type of reporting, providing a new set of information to a much broader set of stakeholders. And one of the things we emphasize in the book is that traditional financial reporting is all about protecting investors, whereas we view sustainability reporting as more broadly protecting humanity. It's got a much loftier set of goals.
So, George, maybe you might like to chime in on. So, Patty and Richard approached you with a suggestion of a textbook on sustainability. What was your reaction as a publisher?
Well, as you know, we've built a reputation as a premier accounting publisher by attracting internationally recognized academics who are interested in creating groundbreaking learning materials. And the emergence of the business sustainability courses around the world represent an exciting new market for us. And a well-written book that puts the ever-evolving nature of mandatory and voluntary sustainability reporting in context is an exciting new opportunity. So when Patty and Richard discussed their project with me, I jumped at the opportunity. They're both extremely productive and well-known researchers as well as award-winning teachers. So I'm sure I was very confident that they would have a terrific book, and it's one that the market is really looking for.
So I agree. They have written a terrific book. Maybe we could talk about how the book is organized, the key aspects of the book.
Okay, yeah, I'll tell you a bit about that. And Richard, feel free to chime in if I forget anything. So how we organized the book was we have it in two different parts. The first part really is focused on understanding a sustainability report. So we talk about how what standards are being used. So there's many different sustainability standards because it's still voluntary, a lot of the reporting. And so first we just introduce the student to sustainability and sustainable development, and then so that they understand some of the 17 sustainable development goals of the United Nations. And then we move on and talk about the different standards that are out there. And after that, we talk about environmental issues and then discuss the rules and the standards to report on environmental issues. And then we talk about social issues and then the kind of reporting that companies do on that. And then we move on to governance and talk about regulation after that, and also assurance. So that the first part of the book really is looking at, just can you learn how to read a sustainability report? What are the standards, so that a student or any reader can interpret the information and know its strengths and weaknesses. And then the second part of the book is really talking about the different ways that data providers and other non-profits and so forth have helped users interpret the information. So there's quite a lot of non-government organizations that help stakeholders understand whether a company's greenwashing or whether they've violated various environmental issues, environmental concerns. And then we discuss ESG ratings and asset managers and the different products that are available, and what shareholders can do about it. Richard, do you have anything else to add? That's kind of how we organize the book: reporting and then analysis.
Yeah. No, you did a good summary. And I'll just add, we didn't want it just to be a technical directory of all the different rules. We really want students to understand the underlying sustainability issues and then how the reporting standards and disclosures are trying to reflect those issues, and then how users can use that information to inform their decisions in order to promote sustainable development. So we really wanted to get to the substance of the issues and go beyond just the technical details of the reporting requirements.
Do you cover some evidence of climate change in the book?
Yes, well, I guess most of us see climate change as really one of the most important environmental issues that are out there. And climate change links into a lot of societal issues as well, because, if the climate change happens and people have to move, then you have immigration issues, and you can also get disparity of wealth issues. So we do see climate change as a very important area. And also the reporting, the rules and standards on reporting on greenhouse gas emissions is quite well developed. And so it's an area that we really feel that accounting students or anybody would really like to have information about. So in chapter 3, I think it is, we cover, the environmental issues related to greenhouse gas emissions. And then we have a whole chapter talking about how companies report on their greenhouse gas emissions and the greenhouse gas protocol. And we also talk about net zero targets. So a lot of countries have set net zero targets, but then it's gone down, to cities and companies and so forth. And so a lot of companies have set net zero targets. And so we discuss whether you can trust those net zero targets and, what kind of rules and are in place to help stakeholders better know whether those targets are real or whether they're just greenwashing. So there's always this concern that because companies are profit maximizers, it's really hard to trust companies. This whole issue of whether they're just trying to impress people, make people feel comfortable buying their products and so forth, versus whether they're sincere. And so with that tension, it's really helpful to be able to understand what they're really doing with their greenhouse gas emissions and net zero targets and so forth. So we spend quite a lot of time on that in the book. So I don't know whether you have anything else to add, Richard, that I'm down on.
Yeah, well, like Pat said, chapter 3, we sort of explain anthropogenic greenhouse gas emissions, their sources, their impacts, and the ways they can be addressed. And then chapter 4 has a detailed discussion of the greenhouse gas protocol and the accounting in that protocol, including the Scope 2 and Scope 3 addendums, and then SBTI, TCFD, and the various other standards that are out there. So we also, throughout the book, we really use climate impacts as an organizing theme to illustrate a lot of the other topics that we talk about in the book. So, for example, we use the Paris Agreement as an example of an institutional arrangement to try and tackle an environmental problem. And so we teach students about a lot of the other important structures that are out there and institutions related to addressing climate change, since that's probably the most important impact that we're facing right now on the sustainability front.
We do spend quite a lot of time talking about the other issues that are of concern to people, such as waste management, like plastics and pollution in the oceans and water effluents. We talk about which industries are most important for producing greenhouse gas emissions, because that can often be surprising that, like the fashion industry is a really important part of greenhouse gas emissions. So we discuss the other kind of environmental issues beyond just greenhouse gas emissions, because they all, as Richard said, become interrelated at some point. It's a very interesting topic. I think students find it really helpful to learn about it out there in the world.
An aspect that you haven't mentioned yet, since your focus so far has been on measurement at the firm, municipality, etc. level. How about measurement at the rating agencies, ESG ratings? You have no comment on that? I'm sure you cover it in the book. And related to that, responsible impact investing. In other words, the users of these sustainability reports.
Yeah, we have like a chapter on each. So there's a whole chapter on ESG ratings, and then a chapter on asset managers and responsible investing. And, I would really refer to what we do there as a critical analysis, because these asset management products and ESG ratings are really just evolving. And what we want to emphasize is there's really no one size fits all here. So, for example, in the chapter on ESG ratings, we talk about the multitude of ratings, and we emphasize how they can be very different. The correlation between different rating agencies is very low, and we try and understand the reasons for that. And we'll do a deep dive on 5 different types of ratings. But just to give you an example, the MSCI ratings, ESG ratings, they focus on the financial risks and opportunities facing companies. So it's very much from the traditional valuation perspective that they're trying to rate a company. Whereas we contrast that with the just capital rankings, which is another type of ranking companies. This one focuses on creating an economy that's good for all Americans. It's a very different focus, a broader set of stakeholders, but it's U.S. stakeholders and a particular focus on U.S. workers, on other U.S. stakeholders. So you really want to understand the issues and either select a rating that's suitable for the decision-making purpose that you have. Well, we also suggest, just using these ESG ratings as a way of learning about how to identify the issues that are important to you, and then trying to aggregate them to help inform your overall decision, but coming up with your own bespoke rating, right? We don't want to give the impression that these ratings solve the problem for you. In many cases, you have a specific decision-making objective, and there won't be a rating that is sort of like customized to that specific objective. Similarly, on the asset management chapter, we talk about the range of different products, and they range from what we call ESG integration, which is simply saying, try and maximize your the performance, the risk-adjusted performance of your investment portfolio, incorporating ESG risks and opportunities. And we know there's going to be a lot of transition risks and physical risks as we move forward and tackle some of these sustainability issues. And some investors just want to use them as opportunities to make more money, to have better risk-adjusted return trade-offs. And then we go through screening and focused investing, thematic investing, all the way to impact investing. And impact investing at the other end of the spectrum is really about trying to allocate resources to promote sustainable development with a willingness to sacrifice some financial return in order to do that. And green bonds are the prime example there. So again, we want to emphasize that there's a range of different approaches depending on the objectives of the user. And then we talk about the different ways in which you can use sustainability information, the information from sustainability reports, to help customize those investment objectives accordingly.
I think I'll just say, I think it's really helpful to people to remove the mystique of ESG ratings, because you know how there's a lot of controversy about them, and so people want to know what's going on with that. And so I think I found that students really enjoy, we have some exercises where they have to decompose the ESG rating and understand the components of it and calculate an ESG rating. So they enjoy doing that kind of thing. And then with the asset management chapter, business school students really like it because it fits into what their other courses are. But I also found that my environmental students also enjoyed learning about that aspect, because they often only learn from a governmental point of view. So they find it really interesting to see the other side of it, of how corporations are doing it and how people value that.
Yeah, well, the very last chapter of the book, on the investing front, we talk about the role of activist investing as an investor. You're not just picking which investments to put your money in. You also have the opportunity to exercise your rights as an owner, an activist. And we talk about how you can do that from simply being an engaged investor and voting your proxies to becoming more aggressive in terms of submitting shareholder proposals, engaging in a proxy contest, or at the extremes, acquiring a public company and taking it private. So that's just another way that investors can impact the actions that companies take from a sustainability perspective, and it's been an important one in recent years. We've seen a lot of action at proxy contests or shareholder meetings in particular with ESG-related shareholder proposals.
Yeah, because I think a lot of people realize that it's quite, well, what we discuss also in the book is it's quite hard to institute regulation to have change, especially with the current political climate. And so, what other actions can people take to get influence corporations? And so shareholder activism is one, active investing is one, and so we just discuss these different approaches to help people understand, other solutions beyond regulation, right?
Yeah, and I think we emphasize throughout the book, as we know throughout our careers of teaching financial reporting, most businesses are for-profit businesses. They exist to make profit, and that has great economic benefits for all of us. It's up to the rest of society to create an environment in which businesses not only make profits, but do so sustainably in a way that really helps all stakeholders. And we as stakeholders have to figure out how to do that. And it can be through regulation. It can be just through purchasing decisions or the companies that we work for. But it's a very complicated problem. Key to solving that problem is that we all have the information that we need to take action, to make decisions that incentivize profit-seeking businesses to act in the long-term interests of everyone.
We're almost out of time, but maybe a final summary word from each of the three of you. I think you've given a very good presentation of the content of the book, and I think it's a very fair presentation. The book is fabulous, I would say, from my own reading. So I'm very grateful for you doing that. Final words? We've got a couple of minutes.
Yeah, the one comment I'll just make is, I learned a tremendous amount writing the book myself, and I honestly believe after writing the book, it's very important for all business students to understand these issues and understand businesses' impacts on these issues and understand the perspectives of the different stakeholders. So I'm happy we wrote the book, and I hope that resonates with other professors and students too.
Yeah, so yes, again, it's like sustainability. I mean, we all sometimes I feel like people mix up the goal of making money with the goal of having a good life. That people think that making money equals a good life, but really what we want is to have a good life. And so when corporations just focus on profit maximization or so forth, it's kind of missing the point, really, that we want to have a good life. And so I feel like if we can develop a system of reporting that is broader and considers sustainability, then it's more likely that people will think in that broader term of, yeah, we want to live on a nice planet that everyone's happy and, the air is clean and so forth. So that's kind of my hope, is that people take a broader perspective, even though I admit that as an accounting professor, we were part of the influences that made everyone focus on profits. But hopefully this book will help people broaden their perspective a little bit.
George, you have the last word?
I'd just like to add that although in the title it says reporting and analysis, the book doesn't presuppose any accounting knowledge. And as Patty alluded to earlier, students from environmental science and other fields outside of the business school will find this very appealing. And more broadly, it will appeal to the general public who are interested in this area. I know that when I read the book, and I'm not an accountant, I learned a great deal about this area. I found it very engaging. It's a very accessible book, and I think there'll be a wide appeal beyond just accounting majors.
Unfortunately, we've run out of time. Thank you very, very much. I'm sure the book's going to be very successful. And I don't have to do this, but I wish you all the best. Thanks a lot.